It's a paradox. We cherish our loved ones, but sometimes our tone sounds like we are about to do a TED talk on their own flaw. So let's not waste any time and jump right into it, Sonalji. So the
Hmm.
topic is, why is it that closeness leads to more criticism? Why is that?
Stakes are very high. So the closer the people are to us, the stakes are very high. We are too invested, we are too scared, we are too concerned. So we are very high on the emotions when it comes to the really close ones. And then there is one more thing in our psychology. There is something called demandingness. It's some kind of an irrational thought in which we are very very glued to our own expectations, and that is known as demandingness. So we have our own reasons to have our expectations, and we believe that people must be able to read our minds, and they are so close to us, so they must be reading our minds. So we also call it as mind reading. And then we go on assuming things, and then that leaves us to a lot of discontent and dissatisfaction, because we always feel that if I am doing something for somebody, then I should get the exact same thing in return. So I think that is what is something which actually triggers that. The the closer we are, the more critical we get, because they are not able to satisfy or fulfill our expectations because of our own irrational thoughts. So when in therapy we always say that if it is not written in some kind of a rule book, it means that people can behave the way they want. You can't you can't just have like rule book for everybody in your life, that this is how this person should behave, that is how this person should behave, and in certain circumstances. So I think that's why basically the closer people are, emotions are running extremely high. So maybe that's the reason why it's so
Okay.
difficult.
So it is like there is an invisible manual. When you say rule book, it is, I call it as an invisible manual, and we
Hmm.
think they should have read about it. So a lot of assumptions are there, right?
Hmm.
But then how to how to love me correctly, or by me, forward by my ego, or sometimes you feel your expectations are too high. So what do you feel like, what kind of this invisible manual states? Yeah.
So basically there is no manual.
Okay.
There is no manual, and it's like a case by case situation all the time. So we can't be like very very specific about what we should communicate when somebody is actually expecting something from us. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, a husband who thinks that she should know that I had a hard day at work, so why didn't she make my food that I love? So if he hasn't communicated that to begin with, and then when the expectations are not met, then the criticism follows, because this again goes back to the demandingness. Like, this is what I had in mind, and she is not fulfilling that, so that basically brings to the criticism. So I think that's why this is very important to understand, that people can't read our minds, so we can't take things for granted all the time.
So this links directly to a neuroscientific finding from Dr. John Cacioppo, and this was a research at the University of Chicago. He found that in close relationships, the brain's default mode network gets activated. So meaning what? Meaning when we are making more assumptions, projections, closer we are, we will make more assumptions. It's like our brain says, oh, I know this person so well, I can predict them, I can know what they should do. But when reality doesn't match the mental script, what mental script we are making, criticism kicks in. She didn't do that same thing, right?
Very true, Surbhi ma'am. This research must be really, psychology is there behind it, and that is what I feel, that this is a relatable, right? And practically speaking, I have seen this even between, mother and the child, and today is a Mother's Day, right? We all are celebrating Mother's Day, and the mom
Mother's Day one.
expects, yeah, And the mother expects from the teenager daughter that automatically she should, make sure that the room is clean, or she should do this by now. But the teen's brain is into something TikTok mode, and mom is tired, worried about this all, isn't it? And this is a scenario in all the homes, correct? So Sonalji, what do you feel about this? Mom's tired mode and the teenagers' energy in the TikTok mode.
Yeah, so what happens is like these small things, starts creating a disconnect on a very regular basis. And before one thing is actually taken care of, another thing comes up. So she's like, the mother is already in a tired mode, and then she is not able to react or behave, which is expected from her, or which she feels that is ideal, and then she already feels guilty about it, and then something else comes up, and she is into that mode of building tension like all the time, and that is why many times these disconnects keep building. So we really need to replace the assumptions that we are already having with clear communication. So communication is basically the key. Communication in any relationship, even if it is a teenage child and a mother. So I think communication is the key, where we can actually get things sorted, and where we can actually communicate, or even if we are assuming something, we can just ask them, and then that conversation can lead to, no, this is not what I meant, this is what I meant, or this is what I expect. So I think that's how it should go. The communication is probably the key.
Yeah, very, very well said. I must say that, the communication at all levels, at home front, at office front, everywhere is the key to get success, correct? So, to move on, what I feel is that our second point, which we want to make the people understand, the takeaway, that why do we feel this urge to fix our loved ones? This is something which is a very common thing, Sonalji. So what's your opinion about it?
Yeah, so when we are actually trying to fix somebody, so it basically comes from our core belief system. It comes from our core beliefs, what we have been believing through our growing years, whatever context we are in, like whatever culture we are in, whatever the society expectations are, and then we are very confident about our beliefs as well. So first thing is that we want to, and then when somebody or our loved one especially is not behaving according to that belief system, we feel that this person needs to be fixed. So that is the first thing, and it usually comes from a place of love. We care, but that concern can sound like criticism sometimes. So we offer advice, we keep offering advice, which might create a lot of pressure, which might also sound like a lot of nagging. So that's how it actually begins. So it's basically our belief system, and then our urge to create a safe environment, show a lot of love. So all that combined actually makes us give them a lot of advice, which might sound as criticism.
Yeah, and that reminds me also, from a positive psychology lens, Dr. Christine Neff's research on self-compassion also shows that when we are self-critical, like all the time we want to improve ourselves, we project that onto others as well. Like we think, if we must improve myself, so should you. All the time we should keep improving. And here is a real life example. I had a coaching client whose husband kept fixing her parenting style, do this, do that, lot of advices. He kept suggesting books, strategies, videos. He wanted her to be better, but better mother, because he wanted to help. But one day she said, I feel like I am in a parenting boot camp, all the time being fixed. So what he thought was he's helping, but the mother was receiving as critique, judgment, fixing,
Yes.
So Rama ma'am, what's your opinion on this?
Correct. This hits hard, ma'am. That is really very important, and which we see it around us, especially all Indian families. This shows up a lot when we are seeing, even when I interact with the parents also. a lot of time, especially when they give the instructions to the children, they say that why don't you behave like, Varmaji's son or a daughter, and there is a lot of comparison, okay, which happens. And I'm sure, like, children, when they are compared, or anybody, it's not only I'm talking about the children, even the adult, especially the ladies have habit of talking about somebody else's spouse who takes care and all that things. The way he takes her out all the time, or they do keep going out of country, city. So this all is a comparison. This word also, how Sonalji said about the communication, the similar way now this another C has come, and that is a comparison, right, Sonalji? So what do you feel, Sonalji?
Absolutely. And while our intentions are good, it can come across as controlling or dismissive of their feelings and dismissive of their choices.
Correct. Absolutely. So, what I feel is that, it is like, what feels like love to us, or, it's kind of feels like, Cold War, or a war between them, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so instead of fixing, basically, if we could just focus on listening, maybe validating, maybe offering support. But then we should always also remember that we have to respect other person's autonomy. Actually, there is one concept in psychology called catastrophizing, which means that whenever we feel that somebody has, or especially our child, so when they have not behaved according to our expectations, or our frame of mind, then we start catastrophizing, and we feel that this is going to lead to some kind of a disaster. So the thing is very small, but then so it's another irrational belief that catastrophizing is it's something like creating a hill out of a mole or something like that. So it's a very small thing, the consequences could also be very small, but we catastrophize it as something which is going to be like, horrible consequences are going to be there. So we also have to be aware of like two things. One is the demandingness, like our own expectations, and one is the catastrophizing. Like ask ourselves whether are we really exaggerating or thinking of the worst case scenario with a little situation. So when we have these things in mind, then that can actually help us connect with our loved ones better.
So I think when we listen, when try to validate that what I am thinking, is it true? It will become more comfortable, right? We will be able to at least understand the person instead of assuming that that person knows everything and the person should behave in certain way like that. So we can also, understand whether we are also, thinking something else and the reality is something else.
Yeah, true.
So now let us focus on the solutions. And what do you think? Like we always say that name it to tame it. So when we understand others, we are able to, connect better, and then we are able to, move things in a better way. So how do we connect before we correct people?
So I have a very, very nice analogy for this. So there is something called an emotional bank account. So what happens is that whenever we meet somebody, we have already created an emotional bank account with that person. So when you smile, when you have an eye contact, when you say nice things, then you are actually adding to that emotional bank account, and that bank account starts getting filled with like all good things. And then after a few days, some misunderstanding might happen, something might have happened, and then there is an argument or something. So there are withdrawals from that account. So basically we withdraw from that account. So it doesn't matter who is filling in, but when it is withdrawn, it doesn't matter who is withdrawing, but the emotional bank account keeps getting lower and lower. Yeah. And then if we don't fill that bank account with care, love, nice words, affection, or whatever it is, then that bank account keeps getting low and low and low. And then it might happen that one day it is entirely empty and there is nothing to withdraw. And that is when it's like absolute disconnect when it happens. Like people are then just not talking to each other, or there is absolutely no connection left. It is because the emotional bank account is completely empty. So now all you have to do is you have to again start filling that emotional bank account. And that is why, I mean, today is Mother's Day, and between a mother and a child, the emotional bank account is so high. It's so full because the mother has been doing so much even before the child realizes that there is a lot of emotional, health or a good amount that is already in that account. So even if she, scolds or whatever she does, so she actually withdraws, but then there is still a lot in there. So I think one should really take care of filling in that emotional bank account like all the time, and that is a very good way to keep the connect. And even in that Gottman's theory, they say that if you are having like a discussion, and so if you're 5 times you're having a discussion, so out of 5 times, like 4 times there is an argument, at least one time you have to just interrupt and make that conversation positive, productive, affirmative, and things like that. So this is one of the ways of how we can connect to everybody.
That's so true. And this reminds me of Dr. Dan Siegel's research from UCLA on name it to tame it, the way we call it. So when we help others label their emotions, their brain calms down. It activates the prefrontal cortex part of it, right? So it allows for logical thinking. Otherwise, when emotions are high, it's not logical, right? They are getting angry, you are getting angry, and it is being escalated. But when you understand emotions, connect with, like for example, let's say your child spills a juice, right? So your usual manual, your usual brain says, "Why are you so careless?" Right? Immediately you would like to say that. But if instead of that you connect, and then your connected brain goes like, "I see you are a little upset. Let's clean this up together. What happened?" So immediately the child will connect, and also because when someone does something wrong, the person already understands. We don't need to nag it always, in very subtle ways also. Even children, when they do something, some mistake happens, they understand. But when we re-emphasize it time and again, then it creates a kind of rift. Sonalji, what's your point on it?
Absolutely. So many times, one kind of a solution to this is between the stimulus and response, there is a space in which we can choose our response. So when something which is not according to us is happening, then whenever if we are responding like immediately, it is our reaction rather than a response. It is just a reaction to something, and again that reaction is based on what kind of a personality I have. So rather than what wrong has happened, it's more about how I respond to situations. So if we can take a moment to just breathe, and even in our culture, they say that if you are very angry, just count up to 10. So which means that between that 1 to 10, you can actually reflect and see what is the best possible response in this situation. Maybe if I am able to choose my response, then I am in a very powerful position, because many times it happens that we say something and then later we regret. I mean, how many times it happens that we regret once we say it, and then you can't take your words back. So they say, Viktor Frankl's philosophy, that between a stimulus and a response, there is a space in which we can choose. And I think that's a great idea of going about it,
that is really very important, because what you're saying, that the word matters a lot, right? What you choose to say, right? When we are speaking, or every word counts, right?
Absolutely.
And when we are connecting with the people, whoever it is around, our dear ones, and especially the close ones, we take it for granted, right? We take it for granted, and we really use the words without thinking. So people need to understand and remember that the words matter a lot, and especially it is in a day-to-day life, when we are telling somebody at home, get certain things from the market, and when they come back, and if they have they miss to get the things, we either make a frowning face, or we say you always forget. The way we speak or react to the situation can really matter a lot. So if we say that, okay, I think so, I should have messaged you, or I need to remind you. So, these kind of words, which are soft skills, which are really required within our close people also, to make that bonding very strong.
It also refers to the I statements, right? Rather than saying the you statements, saying the I statement. Like, I feel that you should have. So even if it's not like too Zen like that, I should have reminded you. It could also be like, I feel that, you can put a reminder for yourself. I feel that I would actually create a list. So that's a better way of looking at it, right?
Yeah, very. And
Whenever we are trying to correct, like, we can say I, right? I should have messaged. I should have done that, right?
and
That's emotionally intelligent love. So this is the way we can build, right? Otherwise, in day-to-day life, things become so bad. I have seen people, avoid even talking, even in homes. Teenager to parents, spouse, with each other, they start avoiding, right?
Because it's so much of withdrawal from that emotional bank account that you feel that let's not communicate, so then there is no withdrawal. At least there is no withdrawal. At least you are, where you are. So where you were so far. So, but that's
Let's not
sad.
make it worse.
That way.
If we can't make it better, let's not make it worse, right?
Exactly.
Stop
But
talking.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
I really liked your this word, which I'm going to keep it in my mind. Emotional bank account. It's more important than your actual bank account. Okay, because here you need to withdraw all the time. The word, right? And if you
So it's not even, you don't even have a choice. So you talk to somebody and that emotional bank account is immediately created. So you can't stop it. I mean, you can't choose whether you want to have an emotional bank account or not. You have it. It's just how it is. And then you either deposit or you withdraw. There are only two things that can happen. Things can't be, in a status quo state for a very long time. It can be for some time. But then eventually either it will be a deposit or it will be a withdrawal. So when we are interacting with our spouse, or with our children, or our in-laws or whatever, we should always keep in mind like the health of that emotional bank account. How is it? I mean, if it is like about to drain, then better you start putting some deposits in that, right? And then if you feel that it's like full of deposits, then once in a while you can behave irrationally. It's fine. I mean, we are not we are just human beings, right? I mean, it's okay. One more thing. I mean, when we criticize, or when we actually have a lot of arguments, or when we have just our old meltdowns or whatever it is, it's fine. We don't have to feel too guilty about it because we are humans. But then I used to tell my parents always that if you are having that meltdown, or if you are doing that, make sure that you're completing the loop. So, you are having that heated argument, and then, it's like, you go there and I go there and things like that. But then you have to make sure that you complete that loop. I mean, when you get together, you have to actually, it's not like, you have just moved on and you have not, discussed on that topic, and it's left just like that. So leaving topics or loose ends just like that is also a form of a withdrawal, I would say. If you complete the loop, and then if you express what you really felt and why you felt it and why it was so important, so then the person also speaks, right? And then again the communication comes in the picture, and then that's how basically things get rolling again. And then once things get rolling, then even if somebody is never going to apologize, that this person is never going to, it actually happens when the lines of communication open. So somebody has to take that initiative. So the more emotionally intelligent the person is, the earlier that person would, understand that and get the ball rolling. It's a sign of maturity, actually.
So saying sorry is not your weakness, is your strength. And it's never too late, right? Suppose you realize today that, okay, I should say sorry to that person, I should have said sorry to that person. Go today and do it, right? It's never too late.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
just lightens a lot of burden actually.
Correct. So basically, it is like, where there is a love is deep, right? The love is deep and the potential for the pen runs deeper. Okay. So we need to really take care. And this is like, whatever Sonalji is sharing with us, it's very insightful and very helpful in day-to-day interactions, because we come across human interaction is a continuous process, right? And for this reason, basically, I feel, this insightful points which we are discussing right now, if everybody takes care, we will be definitely, making a big change in our day-to-day life, right? So, Surbhi ma'am and Sonalji, what I feel is that let's open the floor for questions, right?
Yeah.
Surbhi ma'am, what do
Sure.
you feel?
Sure. We should do it now.
Yeah.
So, would you like to take questions, Rama ma'am? Would you like to read and take it?
Yeah, ma'am. Let's see if audience has written any questions. Yeah.
So I would request everyone to please post your questions in the chat box, anything that you have in your mind. And if you open your camera, we will give you a spotlight so that you can also, be seen by everyone.
I see one point. Okay, I see one point. If a man compares you with other women, if you are being compared with other women, so first is like, let's talk about the demandingness first. I mean, if somebody is comparing you with somebody else, why is it that they should not compare you with somebody else? I mean, is it written somewhere that you shouldn't be compared? That is one. And second, if they compare, why do we feel that we should be the picture perfect person who should always be, on the higher ground in terms of everything, in terms of the looks, in terms of the capacity? Rather than somebody comparing it to the other person, it makes us feel that I am slightly of less value. And that should be really questioned. I mean, you have to ask yourself that if I am being concerned, does it mean that I am a little less? So that is something which needs to be very deeply examined, that thought. Why am I feeling that if I am compared to this person is better than me? In all aspects, that person can be better than you in certain aspects, but there would be certain things which you just can't compare. I mean, it's just irrelevant. So then, rather than looking at it objectively, what I always feel is that we should try to bring in some objectivity and reduce a little bit of emotionality, because we have 3 centers of intelligences. We have a feeling intelligence, or the emotional aspect of intelligence. And then we have the rational intelligence, right? The thinking intelligence, and we have the kinesthetic or the gut intelligence, which is like the instinctive intelligence. So when somebody compares me to somebody, it makes me feel hurt. So that is the emotional aspect of it. But then we have to sometimes also think rationally and try to figure out what that really means to me. So if this person is comparing, then what does it mean for me? Does it mean that I am somewhere less? So is it in somewhere where I can actually improve myself? Then it's a very, very good situation, right? So it's all about how we look at that situation. And then sometimes you also need a one-on-one counseling for this. It might not be like handled in like this kind of a podcast, but it might have a deep running meaning when you say that somebody is comparing. It means that there is some kind of insecurity within yourself, more than what the other person is doing. So would you like to add to this, Surbhi ma'am or Rama ma'am?
No, I'm completely in agreement. Yes, Rama ma'am. Sorry, you please continue.
I wanted to say, like, we in our education system, we we talk about it like having that open-mindedness, right? Like, accepting the things, like, making sure that, other person can also be right. Right? So when somebody is comparing also, you need to have your, different angle to look at it. Why this comparison, right?
Exactly.
Can I adopt certain new things in me? So open-mindedness is very, very important also. So we need to tune our mind. Attitude, right? We need to have that kind of an attitude where we need to be open-minded. So when somebody is asking this question, I feel we need to always remember that comparison with, they have said that if men are compared with the other ladies, so it is a gender equality world, right? Yeah. So we need to look at it into that manner also. Yeah.
No, that's why in Heartfulness and Brighter Minds, Rama ma'am, we are actually fond of experiential techniques, practical techniques, because these things are easily said, but when it comes to us emotionally charged, like Sonalji said, right, we become emotionally charged. My husband, how can my husband appreciate other lady? That's emotional problem, right? So when we meditate regularly, even with children, right, in teenage, this hormone is very high. I should be seen the most super boy, right, super boy kind of thing, or super girl. So that is already high. But when we do certain introspective techniques like meditation or Brighter Minds for children, teenagers, and also youth for that matter, so what it does, it basically helps in some conscious level. It also helps you train your own mind, like automatically how it should go, because immediately if already it goes in emotional charge state, then you will not respond that logically, right? You cannot be that open. But when you train your mind in certain way with these practical techniques, then automatically those things become, instead of reaction, you start responding. So those things, become automatic. So to bring that automatism in the system, so that, any situation I should be able to think, I should be able to decide wisely. So that's the purpose of this Brighter Minds program, cognitive training program, and also all these experiential techniques of heartfulness. So if you would like to throw some light, because in MIT you have seen children, right?
Yeah.
You have seen children, how to
Teenagers.
work with them.
It is very true that you need certain kind of a tuning to your mind. It just doesn't happen by just thinking or listening or reading about it. You need a continuous practice, and that is what is available through this heartfulness a platform, as well as the Brighter Mind has the constructive program for this. So I fully agree with you. I think so. We have more questions, and we should move to the another question, and I will read it out. It is like how to handle to take criticism. Okay, so Sonalji, I think so you will be able to answer this question, how to handle to take criticism. It says like some Manu has written this question. Yeah.
Okay, so when somebody criticizes, they are having or they are saying something through their lens. Everybody has a lens of their own. So they are looking at the world through that lens. So when somebody is criticizing, so there could be many things going on at the same time. One is that person is actually, they really want you to go to the next level, improve, and that is why they are saying it. They might be saying it in a very harsh manner, but probably a lot of care is hidden in that. So that could be one of the situations. Sometimes people criticize because things don't fit in their frame of mind. So you have to actually identify like what's going on, so where this criticism is happening. So based on that, then you can choose how to handle it. First you have to understand how or why this criticism is coming, from whom it is coming. If it is coming from somebody you know that they don't even, they have nothing to do with me and they're just criticizing, so then they can have their viewpoint. They are free to have their own viewpoint. Expecting that they should, this usually happens with friends also.
Yeah.
With friends it happens that they come from different family backgrounds, they come from different core belief systems while growing up, right? And when, say, I'll just give you an example. Like, there are two girls, very young, small girls. One is growing up with a dog in the house. So the dog is her pet, and she takes care of the dog, and she loves the dog, and they have like a very good relationship, playtime and everything. So she has a core belief that pets are amazing and they can enrich your life. Whereas there is another girl who is in the same class, and she just looks out of the window and she sees that there are like 10 stray dogs, creating a ruckus in the colony, and they are just ripping people off whenever they come, and she has seen like very scary dogs. So she starts believing that dogs are dangerous. Now these two girls grow up, they go to a college, and then they are again together, and then she visits the girl who has a dog, and she says that I hate dogs because I'm very scared. So the belief systems are different based on their experiences while growing up. So it shapes how you look at things. So if somebody is criticizing, they are looking at you from that lens that they have. So it's not necessary that you have to take every criticism very seriously. But it's not that every criticism should not be taken seriously, because sometimes criticisms help you grow.
Very true. Very
Right.
true. Very well said. Like, so again, somebody, when they're saying that how to handle the criticism, so they need to understand that from their perspective or their lens, right? At the same time, it may that constructive criticism, I will say it as a constructive criticism, will help you to grow or change your personality also. So that is also
Because it throws you out of your comfort zone, right? When somebody criticizes, it throws you out of your comfort zone. And then if you feel that that this person has some sense, then maybe you have to look at it as how you can grow from that criticism.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. As you very, very wisely have given the advice, sometimes really the constructive criticism helps us in our life. Okay. Yeah, we'll move to the next question. Should we move?
Yeah. Next.
Yeah, somebody has said that I need a personal relationship counseling. So who should I connect with? Definitely you can connect with Surbhi ma'am, and then Surbhi ma'am will guide you. If Sonalji's advice is required, she will tell you. Otherwise, she will help you out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just reach out.
What I'm trying to do, I'm going to send you WhatsApp group link in which we all are together. Okay, so we all are there, and you can join the group and remain in touch with us. I'm also sending you YouTube link, because we keep sharing different ideas on that, different content on that, reels, long format video as well. This particular webinar will also be available there. So you can just join that, subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'm also sharing my number, so that whatever you have in your mind, please send me message, and then accordingly I'll connect to the person, and then we'll take it ahead. So I'm just sharing everything. You can just
Ma'am, you can share till the time. I'll take the another question. They have asked that nature of forgetting many odd situations or things might help. Okay.
So I did not understand the question.
Yeah, Mr. Ajit Pandya has written this. So, sir, can you please speak what exactly you want to say? Yeah.
So can you please clarify a little bit?
Clarify. Yeah. Mr. Ajit, can you hear us?
if you can put your video on, I can give you a spotlight so that you can talk about it.
Yeah, they have written that nature of forgetting many odd situations or things might help. Yeah. So maybe situations which are there and which the person wants to, forget or, forgive, and, again, I think so the emotional connect must be building an emotional connect. That kind of a thing must be there. That is what I am assuming, since they are not.
We tend to forget many things because it is a part of our defense mechanism. Human beings are very, very smart. So that is why we keep remembering our childhood days as, so beautiful, so nostalgic. Everything is so much nice, and everything is, all rose tinted past. But is it actually so much rose tinted? So it's our defense mechanism which helps us forget all the bad things to begin with. So to begin with, we are good at forgetting things. But if something is bothering you, and if you just decide to forget it, that might just not work. You have to process it, make peace with it, and then move ahead, and then you will forget. You can't just decide and forget, if that is what you mean. But I would really appreciate if you could clarify the question. But one can't just forget things like that, because if it is not processed and if it is bothering you, it will actually, bit by bit change your personality. It has an effect on us.
I would like to add here, Sonalji, I would like to add here that there are two types of forgetfulness, like you are trying to forget, right? So there is one cognitive memory and there is emotional memory. Cognitive memory is always very good. You should have it and you should do things to improve it.
Correct.
You should
Absolutely.
do different techniques. But emotional memory, suppose some emotional thing is bothering you, that is always good to clean, because we keep dwelling on past, we keep thinking about future. So that emotional memory needs to go out, and for that heartfulness has wonderful technique. I mean, I would say that is unfailing technique that we have, and I have been benefiting from it from last 30 years. So if you really want to do that, I can help you practically. I have shared a group link also and my personal WhatsApp number as well. So you can send me a message, I can give you that technique. Just try it out. So cognition, if cognitive memory you mean, then I can help you improve it. But if you are talking about emotional memory, it's always good to work on it.
So what Surbhi ma'am is saying is absolutely true. And what happens is, see, when we talk about cognitive memory, it is about all these thoughts. It's about the thoughts that we have. A thought in itself doesn't have much power. Actually, it has no power. If a thought comes in our mind, just a thought, it doesn't have any power. So when does this thought become powerful? When a feeling gets attached to that thought, then that thought becomes very powerful. Then it makes us do some behavior. So basically, so cognitive memory is very simple, because it is just, information, like you remember things. Emotion is not attached to that. But as soon as an emotion gets attached to that thought or the memory, then it can become pleasant, it can be, then it becomes an emotional thing. So it has to be processed before one actually forgets it. Then you don't even have to take any effort to forget it, because you will have made peace with that. Because unresolved issues unnecessarily create a lot of anxiety and unrest in the mind. So I have a very, I love this term, and which I feel that I have coined it. I always like to be emotionally up to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very true.
Get clear of the cache, the memory.
Yeah, so you need to tune your mind for this all, right? You need to keep working on it. You need to introspect. You need to learn new techniques. So these are all things which are very, very important, and learning is a continuous process, right? We will go to the next question, and somebody, Kushbu has written it, that what is an emotional bank, okay? And heartfulness communication helps in it. So that is the question. So, Sonuji, you have got this emotional bank, and now everybody is curious to know about how can I increase the emotional bank balance, right?
Yeah, it's very essential, and this is not my idea. It has not come out of my own brains, but it is given in a very good book by Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Effective People. In that, they have given this idea of emotional bank account. It means that between two people, there exists an invisible emotional account. You call it as a bank account, but there is something going on between two people. Just with the communication, it just starts, and then when you smile at that person, when you say good things, you say hi, hello, so you're basically depositing in that emotional bank account. You deposit trust, you deposit care, you deposit good feelings about that person. When you are so 3 days somebody has said hi, and the fourth day that person doesn't even look at you and just pass by you. So that is a withdrawal. So you have withdrawn. 3 days you have said hi. So now this person is expecting that you will say hi. And then you were in some other thoughts and you just went past from there. And then now you feel that, oh, why did she not say hi to me? What has happened? I mean, is she mad at me? What has happened? So that is basically withdrawal from an emotional bank account. Now you go to that person.
Between a boy and girl, Sonalji, it can be heartbreak as well.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, and then when you go and when you communicate this, when you communicate that, 3 days we greeted each other and today you have not greeted me. So I felt bad or whatever it is, that I just wanted to say hi. When you do this, you are depositing in that emotional bank account. So it doesn't matter that that person has withdrawn, but you have deposited. So there is still that bank account there, So it doesn't matter that who deposits and who withdraws. As long as it is between two people, and it is always going to be there. You say nice things, you develop trust, you do something for somebody, you take efforts. These are all the deposits that you are doing. But when you break a trust, when you promise and then you don't fulfill your promise, so then you are withdrawing from that bank account, emotional bank account. So say, for example, the bank account has just been formed, and 2 times, 3 times you promise something and then you have not fulfilled your promise. So what happens? There is nothing much in that emotional bank account anyway. So when you do this, when they get a sense of betrayal or something, you said it but then you are not valuing your words, you have not fulfilled your promise. So the emotional bank account goes into negative, right? So now 5th time you meet and then you say that, I'll do this. This person is going to say, whatever. I mean, I don't care because you don't fulfill your promises. Because the emotional bank account is empty. But then that person comes to you, that person says that, I have had like serious problems at home. I'm sorry I couldn't do it, but I understand that, I have not fulfilled my promise, but then I'll do it the next time. Next time, there is some emotional bank account, some deposit you have made, even though you have not fulfilled the promise. So it's all about, making an effort to actually putting that deposit into your emotional bank account before it goes like high and dry. Sometimes you don't want to have any relationship with that person. So you decide to withdraw, and that's okay.
Very true. And they have said, heartfulness, yes, heartfulness has a big connection. Surbhi ma'am is sharing the links, all the links. So I'm sure, it will help you, right?
Let me share one more time. Yeah, let me share it one more time because it goes up. So, yeah, Rama ma'am, you can keep taking.
I'll take another question. Why does criticism from someone close to me feel more hurtful than others? Okay, so this is
your
what
answer is right there in the question. Criticism or from someone close. High emotions are running in there, very high stakes are there, and a lot of expectation is also there in return, and that is why. So when you feel that somebody has hurt you, that person is so close, then you feel that how can you hurt me? But then there can be a lot of miscommunication in this one sentence. How can you hurt me? That person might say, I never thought that this is going to hurt you so bad. This is nothing.
It's like et tu bruto. You too.
Yeah.
Again, the words matters a lot, right? Like when somebody is getting hurt, right? So the words, what you choose to express. If you're getting hurt, I always feel you need to express it, right? In a very calm, composed manner, because this is also very important, because most of the time this happens when you have a close relations, right? This all feelings are there, and you need to overcome that situation, and you yourself can only help you, correct, rather than somebody else. So people need to be very selective about what kind of a words they need to use it, right, to reconnect, or I must say that to again wire it to keep going ahead. Yeah, I hope we have answered your question, Sita Lakshmi ji. We have another one, and I think so, Surbhi ma'am, this should be our last question, because it's the endless topic. But before we go for the question, Surbhi ma'am, I want you to share certain things to take takeaways as a golden takeaways from Sonalji's discussion which we are doing it.
Yeah, so let's reflect on these golden takeaways. And one is like closeness breeds expectation. More close you are, more you expect, and that is the problem of, that is the start of problems, and that is why in heartfulness we have 11th maxim, expect not.
Correct.
Second takeaway I would like to say, like pause and communicate instead of assuming. Don't assume, pause and then communicate, right? And then next thing is fixing often gives fear and feeling of control. So show support instead of solutions. Many a times, especially with women, when wife is talking to husband, she doesn't need any solution. She just wants to share. So listen and give your support or solution only if asked for. Don't give unsolicited advice. So the point is connection before correction. So that is very important, because when you connect with emotionally first, logic comes later. We can be very logical, that's fine. But unless emotions connect, logic doesn't work. You may be giving very good examples, but no, right? So I think these are golden takeaways which we can, note down, and then if we start applying it, it will help us really. Rama ma'am?
Yeah, very true. What you said is absolutely correct. Based on Sonalji's discussion, these three golden takeaways which you are stating, it like closeness breeds expectations, or fixing often makes fear or for love, and then connection before correction. So again, C combination, right?
Yeah.
So let's remember that I always feel empathy it is not a soft skill. Okay, it is a survival skill for relationships, and which everybody should remember it forever in their life. So closeness should bring compassion, not the criticism. And but often we forget to treat loved ones with the same grace, and which we give it to the strangers, right? At home, people have a very different behavior, right? So that's something people need to remember it. And with this, I would like to take a last question, ma'am, that is by Divyam. And it says that nowadays some person purposefully deposit in our emotional bank account, use our feelings, okay, and then withdraws it. They don't bother, but we get hurt. And so my question is, how to recognize that this type of a person, that we don't that they don't use us. Okay, so here I think so they want to say is that let us not take people for granted, right? Yeah.
So here she is saying that, probably she's saying that people take us for granted. That's what she's saying, that people, they allow us to enter into that that zone, and then they suddenly they withdraw. So then and then they don't bother, but it hurts us. So, and it happens very frequently. So your question is that how to recognize this type of a person so that they don't use us. So that's your question. So basically the thing is that when a relationship begins, and when we are actually doing all those deposits and things like that, we have to always remember that, see, we don't know where this person is heading. We don't know the core beliefs of this person. So what I would suggest is have very healthy boundaries when you are entering into a relationship. You can't be like a boundary-less person that, this person is getting you involved and then suddenly withdrawing. So, but then it's about you, right? I mean, you have to take a call how much to allow somebody to enter into your like inner circle or whatever it is. So there is no magic wand that you put on their head and then you recognize whether this person is going to use you or not. You don't become vulnerable and don't get manipulated by people. So when I assume that this question is by somebody who is in either in their early 20s or they're in their adolescence, when the hormones are on a very high. So but we have to objectively look at things, like objectively is reducing the emotions from that. So how do you know that this person is like absolutely truthful? You have to ask that question and then get sufficient evidence before you actually put your entire trust in them. So the first thing is that have like full trust in yourself first, so that you feel confident that you can't just get carried away with somebody speaking nicely and then getting you inside their inner circle and then suddenly withdraw. It shouldn't come as a shock or a surprise for you. You should already be prepared for that.
And somewhere it is all about decision making and intuition also. Intuition, which which is there in everyone's heart, and it keeps guiding you always. That is why I'll again come back to Heartfulness and Brighter Minds, because through these wonderful techniques, what I have seen children doing, what I have seen adults doing is develop that intuitive heart. So you understand which place is of which kind, which person is of which kind, where should I be, where should I not be. So your heart guides you, right? So more than your emotions overcharging, when the guidance comes from the heart, you are able to tune yourself to the heart, then you are able to take right decisions for choosing right people in your life. Because this is very, very important. People can make you prepare, people can even drain you emotionally. I have seen children like teenagers who keep crying that my friend said so, my girlfriend said so. It will happen. But then it is like Sonalji said, it is up to us. But then how to decide it, right? So these practical techniques help you, in better decision making, in choosing people wisely, at least in your life. So you can try those techniques.
Very true. And Surabhi ma'am, it's really very important that everybody needs to, build their intuitive power, right? Because this is something which can help you in life, because that gives you kind of a decision making capacity also. So Sonalji, thank you so much for sharing such a wonderful, insightful thoughts, which will stay connected, stay with us, and which we will be remembering all the time, isn't it? And one thing which I always feel, although there is no manual, right? Again, we go back and say there is no manual, but we need to be, user of this emotional techniques which we have learned, and as well as, keep learning. So I feel, Surabhi ma'am, you can take over and share the exit ticket also with everybody. Yeah.
I think everyone can write in the chat itself, how did you feel in this session? And if you have any suggestions for us, if you would like to, bring few topics of your interest, or how did you feel about this program today? And thank you very much for joining. And if you have laughed, if you have nodded or said, oh my God, that's me at any point, then our job is done. And I feel that this is successful, and we are committed to bring many more. Every week we come up with the one webinar. Next week also, Sunday 7:30 p.m. IST, we would be coming. We would be joining you also. Please join. And please join that WhatsApp group, because we will keep posting latest update there as well. And also the WhatsApp, this particular YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining. Stay connected and stay kind. And remember, when love needs little emotional, that particular user manual, that's your heart. The manual, if any manual is there, that's your own heart, right? So please don't forget to keep joining us and keep connected, right? Thank you so much for joining.
And thank you so much, Surbi ma'am and Rama ma'am, for remembering me. It's always such a pleasure. It was wonderful being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.